Thank you very much for the introduction. It's really exciting to see so many people interested in software testing. Or is it Chatgpt? So I would like to start by saying how I basically got to this generative AI domain. And I will talk from my personal experience and from my background. So since I work as a test architect in the Siemens Healthineers organization that works mainly in the healthcare, in the medical industry. So there is a highly regulated industry that requires really deep testing, and testing is really key part of development itself. So basically, 1 year ago, so it was October, and there basically I was just scrolling on TikTok, and there was one guy showing some cool AI websites that you need to know, and it was actually from OpenAI. It was this playground. At that time, the Chatgpt was not released yet, and it was this playground, and there were many cool examples how to use this model, this generative AI model. And I play a little bit with this text DaVinci 3 model at that time, and it was capable of explaining code and generating code and many different nice use cases. So that was my first experience with that. And then using this playground, you can try and learn quite a lot of stuff. And then ChatGPT came, and it was big boom and hype around that, since the new model was even better in this generative output, this 3.5 model. So as you can see, the history is not that long in the respective of the GPT models, but it's getting some really big increase in exponential increase in the speed of how it goes. And I'm quite excited to see how Microsoft's investment, what it brings to the Microsoft 365 in the next years and in the near future, basically. So as I was working as a test architect, my goal is to leverage basically some tools and to come up with some effective and efficient solutions to ease and to get better and software testing. So I was thinking, so is this something that it can help us, and if yes, to what extent and what are the limitations? So the first short answer is yes, it can revolutionize software testing. And these days, this word revolutionize is almost everywhere. So if you see the output from ChatGPT, you ask, for example, for some post on social media, the word revolutionize is quite frequent. So that's one indication that you might see, if you see those words, that this text might be generated from the ChatGPT. By the way, another term that is quite frequent is these unsung heroes that is quite frequent with generated context. So what we did was to evaluate this quality of the ChatGPT and these AI generative models and some different use cases. And this is how we approach it. In this highly regulated domain, we were not able to use at that time our own product-related data. So we try to establish some form of experiment with this roadmap. And the first step was to really formulate some specific system prompts and use cases to find out in which area of the software testing this is something what can help us. Then we ask our experts from different roles to basically review the generated output from these AI models, and then we conclude these experiments and evaluate these implications and outcomes for the next months or years in the future, what it brings. So I will show you that, but first I would like to thank to these experts from different departments in our organization, from different roles that contributed to this experiment and to provided their expertise to review the strengths and weaknesses and general feedback over the quality of generated output. So we will see the review findings of that as well. What we used at that time was the Chatgpt 3.5 turbo model. And by the way, I'm not sure if you can see, maybe if you are in the back, there is the hidden text in these images generated. If you maybe squint your eyes a little bit, that might be maybe better readable. This is also something what AI is already capable of. So you will see more images like that in the next slides. So how we started, basically, we started easily just with the playground, and we provided there a context for our imaginary application that we use for these prototypes. It's a blood pressure tracker application. We created some kind of application context that was reused for generating the output. And we wanted to stay in this medical healthcare domain. So what we explored, we used this WV model. You might be familiar with that. So to explore different use cases in different phases during the software development, and we take a look on first for requirements text generation or requirements in general, because requirement specifications or test specification, they contains usually quite a lot of text. So since generative AI is capable of working with text, this is probably a good idea to start with. Also, the acceptance testing in area of ATDD or BDD with usage of Gherkin scenarios and Gherkin language itself. So to generate this kind of transformation from requirements text to these Gherkin scenarios, that was something what we explored as well. Then we take a look also on the code review or test case reviews. How is the generative AI or specifically this Chatgpt able to review these outputs, and what are the capabilities of generating or creating unit tests? So in this presentation, we will look only on these 6 use cases. So first is requirement text generation. This requirements reformatting, what I mentioned is Gherkin language scenarios. Risk management, this is crucial part in the software testing. Test case generation, test case review, and the unit test code generation. So is Chatgpt able to help us with the generating requirements, especially the requirement text that is conformant with some quality standards on how to write these requirements. So what we used is we take this application context for this blood pressure tracker application. We use specifically crafted system prompt to ask how to generate these requirements. And for one user story, we asked to generate these requirements. So that was iterative approach where we provided multiple user stories, and then we get the list of requirements. So this is basically the system prompt, user prompt, and then the assistant generated output. You can see that, and you can also try it on your own in the playground where you specify these things. And the system prompt, in this case, it was quite long. So it took quite many lines to explain what it is required to specify in this requirement text generation, what should be the quality of these requirements, what are the criteria for the output, for the formatting, and so on. So there are many of those. And then you can also try out the Wrapped, basically the system prompt in the Azure AI web application, which basically show you this demo example with the simple input as a Tetris game. So by that, the Chatgpt or this generative AI model was able to generate the list of requirements for that. There is authentication from the Google required tool, so that you are aware of that. So let's take a deep look on the outcomes of the requirement text generation. So the problem statement was that it takes quite a lot of time to write such a requirement text, how it can help us to speed up this process, and how it can be more conformant to these quality standards in this natural language output. So we expect some kind of potential time savings and that conformity reduction costs for non-conformance costs and high accuracy to this standard. Drawbacks, over-reliance, just as was mentioned in the previous presentation. This is overall general risk with these AI models. and there are some interpretation gaps or loss of nuance. What we identified as a strength, it is really good capable of getting grasp of the context provided. So depending of the quality of the input, it is able really to provide good output of that. It also shows good understanding of non-functional requirements, especially if we ask for the specific generated output for the generated requirements. That shows quite promising output. So it can save us quite a lot of time during this writing of this text. Unfortunately, there are also some weaknesses like lack of specificity in some cases and ambiguity issues. Also, what we seen is that in some cases it basically made up some requirements that we didn't ask for. So in some cases, it is a good thing. So we might consider to apply those things, but we might be careful to don't take it all as it is and apply it and work with that. So in conclusion, it is really good base for starting with requirement texts and requirement engineering. So it can provide us really good kickstart. But it still requires some human refinement and it missing some context. So that should be provided as well. So let's take a look on the other use cases. So Gherkin language was another one that we explored. So we wanted to take this application context. We wanted to create again specific system prompt for that, and then take requirement and transform it basically into the set of scenarios described in the Gherkin language known with this given when then format. So this is the system prompt. Again, we need to specify what we expect from this model, what it should behave. Unfortunately, it's capable of understanding what the Gherkin language is. So the trained model has that knowledge and is able to generate also the output based on that. And we provide also one example how that structure and formatting should look like. Based on that, we are again using in the platform, we are able to generate the scenarios there. And this is again something what you can try out with this QR code. And we are able to generate some scenarios for the Tetris game here. And formatting is probably not optimal here, so the given when then steps could be improved in the future. So let's take a quick look for this promise, what we see there, especially as I mentioned, the time savings and problem with the missing expertise with writing such a Gherkin language scenario. This is something what takes some time to learn and to get really be effective with this BDD context. So this is something what can get people up to the speed and to basically reduce some kind of learning curve to understand this BDD language, Gherkin language with that. Again, over-reliance is problematic and there are some issues with the consistency. So how we can, for example, include our already existing library of Gherkin scenario test steps, how we can include that into the context. And there we hit the wall with the limitations of the context size and token limitations. So what we identified is that it is really good output is really good formatted for this input for the provided requirement text. But we also identified that there is some issues with ambiguity and overthinking or underthinking in some cases. This is again issue how we what quality input we provide. That's the output we get. So this is something what we need to keep in mind, and the limited scope. So if we provide requirement after requirement, then we have problem with the duplication and consistency. So that also requires some human intervention in regards to the review. Let's take a look on the other. So risk management is another crucial part of the software testing and especially risk-based testing. If you are not familiar with that, please check that as well. And this can highly improve the effectivity of the software testing in general. So this is something what we explored and what we wanted to ask and basically evaluate how this generative AI is able to identify potential risks or analyze them, and even if it's able to provide some mitigations for them, especially in regards to the test cases, test design methods, and so on. So this is the system prompt that we used. We explained basically what are the requirements for that, what is the how it should behave, how it should do the analysis of the identification, analysis, and mitigation, and what should be the output, how it should be formatted. This is again example application prototype that you can try out, and in this case we provided the application context, and it shows the multiple risks identified. It also shows the likelihood and exposure for these identified risks, and what are the potential mitigations that we can do for reducing that risk for the future. So let's take a look again on this risk management. There we see that again expertise of the risk managers or system analysts is very high. It's required a lot of efforts to create and identify all these risks. So this is a potential benefit that we see, but regarding the potential drawbacks, we see that how these data are trained and what is the content of this training model is something what it can impact also this risk mitigation quite high. So there is this possibility of bias in the training, and also it might not recognize some emerging risks. So for example, there is some new technology or some new security risks, and this is something what the older model would not know about. Regarding the strengths, again, time efficiency is the major benefit, but we also see there is provided different types of risks, so not just product-specific risks, but it can suggest also the project risk. And also it shows broad coverage and good initial strategy suggestions. There are still some weaknesses like incompleteness in regards to the identified risks, and also a lack of detail in some cases. And again, so it's good base for starting with the risk management, but it doesn't replace human intervention and expertise. It can just speed up this entire process. So the next use case what we explored was test case generation, and in this case we wanted to basically transform the requirement, including this application context and the system prompt, into the set of test cases for that specific requirement. So if we explore these requirements based metrics, this is what we wanted to achieve. So basically, if we are able to kickstart, basically, for example, for some new project, we would like to generate a quickly set of test cases. This is something what we can use. In this case, system prompt is not very long, and it's focused mainly on the formatting and what we expect from understanding of the inputs. Again, you can try out this application, which shows the example of the Tetris block movement, and it generates test cases with the steps, description, and expected results. This can be evolved even further if you wanted to provide more details or more nuanced outputs. So again, potential is that we can boost in efficiency in the test case creation, and what we see potential drawbacks in the assessing or creating non-functional requirements in the terms of how we are able to quickly do that, because most of the non-functional requirements are good for automation, and in this case we need probably some other ways how to do that. So identify strengths, again, efficient test case automation. What is also really beneficial is that if we have bad requirement text as input, we would get basically not so quality test case generation. So this is something what we can use as a feedback loop for fixing or improving the requirements text as an input. Again, lack of human intervention is a big problem. So there again, the test case creation is really crucial, that we talk to the architects, to the product owners, product management, customers, and create these use cases with human interaction and understanding. So this is something what we need to keep in mind. And we see also that there is need for more negative test cases, and human review is still required for reviewing these test cases. Regarding the review, so we wanted to review the test cases that are basically handwritten or they are also generated. So is generative AI able to review basically these test cases? And the input is application context system prompt and one specific test case, and we wanted basically review comments out of that. We provided this specific system prompt for that, where we describe basically what are the qualities of test cases we are looking for, and what it should do, how it should review basically this input, and then we format the output for that case. Again, you can see example on the Tetris block movement and what are the review recommendations for that as well. And feel free to try it out. And regarding the test cases, I will talk about some strengths, mainly deep detail analysis. So it knows basically how this input or how this test cases should look like, what are the qualities as we describe as the system prompt. This is what it looks like, review and text check in these test cases. And the output of provided suggestions is quite good. It suggests clear and actionable feedback and consistent evaluations. However, it still is prone to errors, and it sometimes hallucinate and suggest some review comments that are not really relevant. So still, we need to think about which review findings are relevant or not, and which we should address or not. Next, regarding the unit testing, basically there were a little bit different approach, and I will explain first why. Initially, what we wanted to do is provide the requirement, some kind of test specification. So requirement specification where we explain what we expect from the test methods to be generated, and then we quickly see that even though it generates unit tests, but due to limitation of the context size, the token limitation, we generated only a couple of test methods. So that was problem, and we didn't have enough unit test coverage because of that. So what we did was to split this generation use case into the two phases. First phase was to ask generative AI Chatgpt to generate test list written in accept, arrange, act, assert sentences describing exactly what this test method should look like. And then as a next phase, basically, we explored what is the quality and how exactly the code should be written. So basically, then we take one test method from the test list and ask it to generate actual unit test code. In this case, basically, we can easily split it into multiple languages with multiple requirements for multiple frameworks, and this is something what can be used as well. So, can generative AI revolutionize software testing? So, yes, and the short answer is yes, but let's summarize basically these strengths or weaknesses. So first and biggest strength is basically that it can increase time efficiency if we spend using this generative AI as some kind of assistant or co-piloting during these different use cases that we see. and we also have good understanding of this context. So also the quality of the input data is very important in this case. The structured output is very good. It provides a very good promise, especially what we've seen in this test case generation or the Gherkin scenario cases, and it has really broad coverage respective for the different domains. Of course, if you are in a very specialized domain that requires very high degree of expertise, this is maybe something that models like Chatgpt would have a little bit more struggle there. Of course, to summarize weaknesses, so it lacks some specificity. There is issue with the ambiguity and inconsistency. So there are cases that the answer will very generic, and sometimes it was not clear what is meant by that. And it also shows some gaps in domain insight. And the redundancy and duplication is the reason mainly because of this context or token size limitation. So in the future, when this is more broader, we expect less redundancy and duplication in these cases. So what you can see here is the estimation of some productivity gains, and don't take it too seriously. So these are really rough estimation that we've seen during this exploratory testing of the generative AI, and comparing basically how much would that work required to do manually versus with the help of the generative AI. And we also included time for required to review generated output in these cases. However, the promise is quite high, so we will see in the future how that rollouts in the real projects once this is used more heavily. So to summarize, yes, generative AI can revolutionize software testing, but with limitations. And AI speeds task, but needs refinement. It enhances, not replaces human skills. It's a useful tool, not a full solution, and we need to keep balance always. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter Milovčík. Thank you. So let's take a look at the questions. What are the limitations of using AI in software testing, and how can they be overcome? You mentioned some of them. I think yes. You asked that before. So can we think about anything else? Can I, as a non-programmer, use it?
What I've seen already that the more expertise you already have, the more you can benefit with this generative AI. So if you are a junior, let's say junior developer.
I'm junior at 43 years.
I mean, in expertise, in skill. So this is something maybe you can use mainly on the learning of these new things, new programming languages, new methods and skills. But if you are already expert in, for example, in the software testing, the benefit is that you already know what you should ask for. So this is the main benefit of that. And limitations, so limitations as I've shown here, but still I take it as something which is here basically quite short time. So it's not something which is really established mature. So I hope that these limitations will be much lower in the next years.
I have a question. Does that really save time at your company? Isn't it like you're moving people from just writing the test scenarios to writing the questions for the Chatgpt?
It saves time, especially in this labor text-intensive work. So in that case, yes, it can generate test cases like in seconds. So yes, it saves quite a lot of time.
Otherwise, you would have to do that manually, and then just test case 10 minutes, and now you can generate thousands of them. Okay, perfect then. How did you deal with the privacy while using Chatgpt during the implementation of your project? Weren't you worried that your company's confidential data would be made public or shared with OpenAI?
Yeah, so this is because of this reason exactly we were using just an example prototype for what I mentioned. This blood pressure tracker application was not real product that we developed. That's why we used that. But we already explored this potential of having our own company instances of these generative AI models, which are private and secure. So this is not the case, and it takes some private.
So are you already running ChatGPT on your premises?
Yes.
On Red Hat?
No.
Okay. I'll try to find somebody today. Did you try also other language models which you'd run on your own hardware, example Llama or Alpaca? I don't like sending my code or client data to OpenAI. So you use ChatGPT?
Yes, we
No
used
Llama, no
ChatGPT. It was something what we wanted to quickly start with, explore. We didn't want to invest too much into building our own models or other models locally. But yes, there are others in our organization that explore these areas. But in this case, what I've shown, this was also all explored only on GPT 3.5 turbo model.
Did it meet your requirements? Did you manage to do everything, or are you looking for...
It was satisfactory at the time, but let's see what the future brings in the new.
You're saying at that time we already used it. So what are you doing now?
Now we are looking how to integrate basically these use cases what I've shown into enterprise architecture. Would be maybe something we would take from the previous talk. But we to combine basically these use cases one by one into some form of tools and web applications that can be provided as a user interface, quick user interface for the developers and teams, for the testers to efficiently use. So not just one web application that I've shown as before for one specific use case, but really integrated solutions that can work together and built on one.
We're going to be more effective, more optimized. How many people are going to fire?
I hope none, because there is so much work to do. So I don't think that we would don't have work to do. So.
So if they learn and new stuff, then they can stay.
Yes.
Yes. He's laughing. Nobody believes him. Okay. Do you consider a possibility that generative AI at this stage or later stage will replace some of or reduce the amount of positions available for the software developers? Everybody's asking about that. I already asked that. So are you firing people?
No, and I don't think that this is something what we should be concerned about, because from my perspective, from what I see, what is the work of software developer or software engineers or test professionals in general, it's not something which is just capable of replacing by just simple AI tool. There is so much nuance that these engineers work during day from daily stand-ups and from all these other works to do. So I don't think this is replaceable now.
Okay, so if you're firing anyone, it's project managers.
I don't know.
Okay, I don't like these answers. Do you use any ready-to-use AI tools for test generation, such as Copilot, Codium, AI, etc.?
Yeah, we explored also that, but again, not on our products or project-specific code. So we have some kind of small tools that we wanted to explore and to try out what are the benefits of using them and what are the limitations, and try to learn how to work with them. So we see great potential especially in efficiency boost as well. But again, there are some limitations that we need to think during the development. So some of these models doesn't know about the latest, greatest versions that are used. So they need to be adapted to that. And really the skill to learn how to write these prompts and how to iterate over and over this implementation, it is something what is crucial to gain in these days to learn how to work with this generative AI efficiently.
Maybe there are some people from big companies also who want to try this and want to move on with this. How long do you think it's going to take that you will be able to use AI-generated test scenarios like, okay, let's do it like this and we use it in production?
Well, I think that once these limitations that I've shown are reduced to some extent, then maybe in next year, maybe in 2. So it depends on, still human intervention is required. So it's not something that we might replace all the...
Of course, no, I don't mean replace. I mean like when will AI do most of the work, like 80% of the work?
Maybe 50% of work, yes, but probably in next future, in near years.
Okay, so I know if the others try to implement it, that they know that if we're doing it for 10 years, then we're slow. So you do it in 2. Okay. In Košice, everything is faster. Is there any potential copyright issues with using third-party AI?
Yeah, this is also something what our legal department is heavily investment in checking and basically exploring what are the risks of using it heavily on all our projects. And this is also one reason that we are not yet able to apply that on in projects. So it's unknown.
Yeah. So you're fighting on like more fronts. Like one is programming, one is legal,
right?
And then and one is HR. How do you think? How long do you think it will take us to develop a self-writing AI, considering the current developing progress? What is self-writing AI?
I'm not sure. I don't have an answer for that. So it's difficult for me to answer.
Is the AI to write another AI, or is it AI to just write?
So in current stage, what I explored, what I tried with writing Chatgpt or this GitHub Copilot to write the software, I would not be concerned that this is something in near future. Let's say like that.
Okay. That was Milovčík from Siemens Healthineers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.